Hey guys, Nathan here, and today we're going to go over 10 common misconceptions in the transgender community. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with number 1. You have to know from a young age. You do not at all need to know that you were trans from a young age. There are so many people that figured out they were trans when they were even 30, 40, 50, up from there. Although for a lot of people having, for me, being a tomboy was a big indicator that I was trans, not everybody has that experience. Number 2, you have to medically transition to be trans. You do not have to medically transition to be trans, whether that be with surgeries or hormones. You don't have to do any of that. Some people can't afford it, and some people just don't want it. Whatever someone does with their body is their choice. There is no checklist for transition. Number 3, bandages are okay to bind with. They do it in the movies, so why not? I cannot stress this enough, do not use bandages to bind. It can be extremely dangerous. Films often portray binding like this to add extra drama, and also because of the lack of knowledge, they don't know how you're actually supposed to bind. After you put on a bandage, it will tighten on its own, and that is really bad because it can put a lot of stress onto your ribs. It can bruise them or even break them. So binding with bandages is very bad. Only bind with binders, or KT tape if you know how to do it correctly. Number 4, being trans is a trend. There's so many trans people now. There are so many trans people now because of the information that's out there. With this information out there, it's so much easier to work out who you actually are, and it's become a lot more easy to do so, and even people figuring out who they actually are a lot younger, which is actually really good. Trans people have always been around, but maybe just some of them didn't have the language to put to how they were feeling. Number 5, being trans means you hate yourself. A lot of trans people don't hate themselves. I feel like this misconception might come from not fully understanding dysphoria, and gender dysphoria doesn't mean that you hate yourself. It is the discomfort or distress that comes with your gender you were assigned at birth. Whether that be your body or how you're socially interacted with, like how you're addressed with your name or your pronouns or anything like that. So I have dysphoria, but that doesn't mean that I hate myself or my body. There are definitely parts that I don't like because of dysphoria, but that doesn't mean that I hate my body or myself. Number 6, trans is its own category. Trans is not its own box. For example, there isn't trans men and men as separate genders. Trans men are men and trans women are women. Trans is just a description of how someone experiences gender. Number 7, if you're transmasc, you can't be feminine and vice versa. Expression is separate from gender. You can dress femininely, for example, you can dress femininely, wow, I can't even say that word. For example, you can dress femininely and have a stereotypically feminine hobby and still be a trans man. Oftentimes the two are intertwined, but that's not always the case. There is no one way to be trans, and you don't have to look a certain way. Number 8, no one wants to date a trans person. Dating can be harder for trans people, but that doesn't mean that no one wants to date us. If there was more knowledge about trans people out there, people would be more accepting and less judgmental. Trans people are just like everyone else. They just happen to be trans. It's just not all that we are. Number 9, hormones will make you gay. I'm not exactly sure where this idea comes from, but gender and sexuality are separate. I've heard of some people thinking that you can be so gay that you become trans, or that hormones will make you gay, which is not true. Being trans has nothing to do with your sexuality, they are completely different. One thing that can happen with being more comfortable with your gender, your sexuality can change, but that is completely different from hormones making you gay, for example. That is not true. And lastly, number 10, dating a trans person makes you gay. Dating a trans person does not make you gay. If you are, for example, a cis man dating a trans woman, you're in a straight relationship as a man and a woman. I hope you learnt something through this list. If you're trans, you probably already knew it, but some people don't. So I just wanted to clear up these misconceptions about the trans community. If you have any misconceptions you'd like to share, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you later.